Hello and welcome to the third episode of the second series of Payara podcasts dedicated to Java community. My name is Dominika Tasarz-Sochacka and as usual, I will be your host. My guests for this episode are the leaders of Chicago and Seattle Java user groups, Mary Grygleski and Freddy Guime. Mary is a Java champion and the director of emerging technologies at Calibrity. After over 20 years of being a software engineer and technical architect, she discovered her true passion is developer and customer advocacy. She is a very active tech community leader running the Chicago Java user group. She's also a co-lead of the Chicago chapter for AI Camp. Freddie is a Java champion too, and a principal engineer at Expedia. He is the author and maintainer of the javapubhouse.com, a podcast dedicated to the tutorial topics in Java. And in the context of this episode especially, Freddie is also the community leader for the Chicago Java user group and a co-organizer of the Seattle Java user group. And on top of that, after attending Java One community party last week and watching the performance of Null Pointers there, I also found out that Freddie is a great singer, so definitely a man of many talents. During our chat for this episode, we discussed Mary's and Freddie's journey to becoming JUG leaders. We talked about the opportunities that come with being part of a local Java user group, whether that's organizers or members. We explored how the Java community can help developers grow their skills and confidence, along with the challenges of encouraging a new generation of Java users to step out of their homes or offices and return to in-person meetups. We also explored the impact of AI on modern Java development, which unsurprisingly has sparked significant interest among both new and existing community members. However, it also presents a challenge: how to ensure the next generation of developers remain effective in a workplace where AI is increasingly integrated into development workflows. We discussed all of this and much more, so tune into this episode. I hope you'll enjoy Java User Group Spotlight, Chicago JUG, and Seattle JUG. Hi, Mary. Hi, Freddie. Thank you for joining me for the Payara podcast today.
Thank you, Dominika.
Glad to be here.
So I would like to, it would be great if you could tell us a little bit more about your Java user groups, because each of you is actually working with a different Java user group. So we've got Chicago and Seattle here. So how you started and what's your role within your user group community right now? So how about you, Mary?
Sure. Yeah, I'll start. So I'm the leader, I guess, president, although right now it's less of a structured, so to speak, but I can get more into that detail. But I've been leading Java users, the Chicago Java users group since COVID times, actually, the beginning of COVID. That's when I became president. And but unfortunately, because of COVID, but I carry on and been running it. But also because of the way, people are not as, I guess, because of the, COVID and not as engaged. I just carry on at this point right now. So still leading it, still doing activities, like meetups once per month like that. And so you asked about how I got started. And in fact, that's why too, I invited Freddie here because of him. And at the time, too, for me, it was 2014. I remember I was like thinking, let me because my daughter was old enough that point in college. And I thought, let me get myself back into, engage with the community. With the work I was working with, like Java development, primarily, I was doing that. And so I joined Java Users Group, and then I kept going. And I know, and then at one point too, Freddie said, why don't you help? And so that's how I decided, okay, yeah, I can help too. And that's how I started helping, and just more and more. And part of me, I didn't realize how much I enjoy the community, right? Otherwise, too, if you're doing work, usually if you're an individual contributor, you're just by yourself. But I didn't know that's what I was missing, is this community touch, like with people. So I was really attracted to doing this. And then, it just slowly becomes like the thing. And then now I'm doing a lot of community work because of that. And then I stay with CJUG too. I really like the community and just meeting people, talking with people, and then seeing the progression too of the technology, what we're doing with it. So that's how, in a nutshell, that's how I got involved with CJUG. So
that sounds great. So Freddie, how did all of that happen for you then?
It all started back. Oh my gosh, this is it's one of those like long stories, right? But I'll try to keep the highlights. But it's super fun. So For those who don't know, I used to run the Chicago Java users group. I actually used to live in Chicago probably like 8 years ago. And I started like, I think like probably like 13 years ago, I started, or not so much as started, but kind of like revitalized the Chicago Java user group. Like at the time when we kind of like started taking it over, it was the membership was dwindling a little bit. The leadership wanted to like go out. And the reason I got involved was very interesting. It was because I was at Java 1 and at the time was like Stephen Chin, I think, was doing like a community keynote, and he was like, go back to where you come from, find the Java user group that is around your city. There's probably one, and help out, right? And I took that as a calling, and it's like, all right, fine, let's go in, let's find who's running the Chicago Java users group. At the time, like the president was retiring. And I just happened to like fall into that group. And long story short, we grew the group. I managed to push it, with, and it definitely was not me, but it was just the amazing people that I had around me that helped it push forward. And one of the things that I did try to take, like into consideration was like, how will this survive when somebody leaves? And that's where I was like so lucky to have Mary in there, and a bunch of other folks that were like, and I actually did a blog post on this where I was moving because of work to Seattle, and I knew that I had not to worry about the Chicago Java user group moving forward, and that was kind of like the best gift like that they gave to me, because I knew that if it was not Mary, it would have been any of the others that are in there that will just make sure that the team moves forward. And when I landed on Seattle, like the first thing I did is like, okay, who's running the JUG here? Let me help you out, because I know that the one thing that I know that is coming through is that every Java user group will welcome more help. So essentially, Nimrod is running it here, and I just say like, let me help. And essentially, COVID came through. We kind of like have to move online, but we kept working together, and now we are growing the leadership. We have Jonathan Ivanov also helping over here, and he really is the workhorse. I always tell him he's the workhorse, I'm the show horse. Like, but yeah, so that's kind of like the long and short story. Like, I was lucky enough to run into great people. And that's why if you're a Java user group leader and you find, one of those gems, it's like, hold to them and never let them go. Like,
but that's really a really nice story. And I don't know, did you realize, Freddie, how it worked? I think the Chicago user group is very lucky, because you said you arrived when the previous leader was leaving, and then you just arrived there, and you said, okay, I want to do it after your colleague from Java 1 keynote. And then when it was time for you to leave, you had Mary. So it's really, the Chicago user group is really, really lucky to have the right people exactly at the right time, arriving at the right time, right?
Yeah, no, it's a series of wonderful coincidences, right? Some of it is deliberate, like we did try to reach out. We did try to create this environment where, for example, we have like Todd Ginsburg was there, where we have like lightning talks, we have like mentoring opportunities and all these things to almost it's to almost like put little traps to get the people that are interested in, and then you kind of like lock them in. It's like, oh, you did it. And this is Todd Ginsburg's story, right? Like he came in, he did an amazing presentation on optional for 5 minutes, and he was very, very shy at the beginning, like saying like, even though his presentation was amazing, he was like, I was not built for presenting. And Bob and I and Mary and everybody else is like, dude, you were amazing at it, and you should really just cultivate that. And we kind of like rope him in. Now he's one of like the big Kotlin speakers on the circuit, and I think and that is kind of like how you make it happen, right? Like it's there was definitely like lucky that they decided to show up, but we tried to create these opportunities for essentially people that are passionate to like kind of like latch in and contribute.
Sure. Yeah. I think for me, I'd like to supplement. I think definitely like a Java users group or any user community is really a great platform. That's kind of so inviting and like not like a work situation in which you can feel inhibited, kind of like that. Whereas the user group community is very good as, again, a platform that people can come in and feel safe and be encouraged to try different things out and without being judged. I think that's what is kind of amazing and it's a nice venue to get people into this, to rope people in to build community. So
yeah, as Freddie said, set up a trap, but it's a nice trap to be caught in, right? It's the right place to actually get into that trap. But it sounds. I really like the fact that you've mentioned that you had a person that is now a great speaker, and they started at the community event, they started at the Java user group event without really realizing that they are good at it. And this is another, and we haven't mentioned that before in previous conversations we had, but we always talk about how Java user groups obviously help people to learn Java, and there's a lot of educational content, there's a lot of networking going on, there's a lot of sort of this community spirit where you share knowledge, but there's also, you can actually learn to do public speaking, right? This is you can become a presenter, you can do lightning talks, you can start with those little engagements and then grow it, and this is sort of another side of Java user groups that people, again, those that are not part of them but maybe considering to join, may not be aware of. That it's not, you can be just in the audience, but you can also be in the leadership team, or you can take active part as a speaker. And again, I think we have to shout from the rooftops about it, because that can attract other group of people, or maybe someone who never considered themselves a speaker, but they actually want to give it a go. Java user groups are really good spaces to give it a go, right?
Totally. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah. I remember as Mary was volunteering, I actually wrote her in to present at DevNexus. And
yes.
Amazing.
and the funniest part was that I was wearing a Darth Vader mask throughout the presentation.
That's right. Yes.
I think I've seen some photos of that.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, it was amazing. Because and it was kind of like a cool opportunity, because we got together. We actually, I was in Chicago at the time. We go to like the local library. We practiced like 3 or 4 times.
Wow.
And then it was like, I don't know if that was probably like your second or third presentation, Mary, right?
Yes, totally. Yeah, for public speaking, especially at a big one. I think that's my second one for a big one. So other than at JUG and did a lightning talk, and then another one I forgot. And then you said let's go for DevNexus. I was scared. I have to admit that. Never thought. Yeah. So that was great. Having Freddie also, being so willing to volunteer his time and then inviting me to join him with this talk too. That was a turning point for me. That's how I became developer advocate.
Amazing.
Wow,
I love that story already, and we're only like 5 minutes into the conversation. No, that's great. And I had no idea, Mary, because to me, when I heard about you, because of your talking and speaking at all of the conferences. So that's how I heard your name for the first time. And and it is, again, thanks to the community, and it's great the power that Java community has, and when we all get together and actually do things together. And this is a great story. I think you should be sharing that more.
And I think that's kind of like as if you happen to be in a position of leadership in the community, essentially that is the job, right? Like it's a lot of it is try to discover or encourage the good thing it's there, and how to push it forward, right? Like because the interesting part is that's how first you're enabling people to be the best that they can be, right? But that also it pays it forward, right? Like there is nothing bigger that I can think of like like Mary actually running leadership stuff, making an advocate for like a lot of the women in breakfast, or being a JUG leader, or presenting all on this advocacy, right? Like that is something that I couldn't have done, right? And this is kind of like the amazing force multiplier that happens in the community. And usually if you happen to land in a position of leadership, that is kind of like the reward, right? Like there's nothing that brights my makes me smile more than thinking back and looking like where the Chicago Java users group is going. Even the Seattle Java users group, like Johnny was a similar story. Like he just like decided, we were working at Expedia Group at the time, and he's like, oh, I want to join you on one of the Java user group meetups in Seattle. And suddenly he is now another speaker. He goes to conference. He's spring telemetry guy, and it's he's just took off, and he's preparing the next, essentially the next kind of like the next generation that's going to come after us, right? So it's amazing. That's the fun part of being a user group leader.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And Freddie, because you moved from one user group to another, so from Chicago to Seattle. What was there any big difference that you noticed when being a leader of one user group and then moving to the other? Are those two user groups operating in a similar way, or was there any shock when you sort of started in Seattle in comparison to Chicago? Just I'm curious because again I've been talking to quite a few leaders recently, and each user group is different and they operate in different ways, and it's interesting to hear those stories. And you are the first person that actually was a leader of two different user groups. So how was that experience?
Yeah, no, it's interesting because it is different, right? Like for example, the one thing that happened was Chicago is like we have like 2,000 or 3,000 like folks on the meetup group, and Seattle we had like a mailing list when they first arrived around like 1,000 people, and Seattle is a tech hub, right? So you expect it to be big as well, but that wasn't the case, right? And when we have the meetings, what we saw was that there was essentially this group of members that they're great members, but they've been there for 20 like 15 years, right? Like there was no new blood coming into the user group, right? And some of it I realize is cultural in the sense that Seattle is, people in Seattle love to have their network that they grew up with, but they are very happy just keeping that network and not expanding more, right? So one of the things that or like the uphill battle that we had at the beginning was trying to get people to say like, look, this is a great thing. Come over here. Even though you haven't been part of this before, this could be a fun experience to have, right? So we have to try to entice folks to come over here, try to change our approach, try to change venues. And all this happened as COVID was happening as well. So that was kind of like a double whammy, where people really said like, no, I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to be home forever, right? But I think it's still a challenge, but we finally got. There's definitely new folks coming in. It's not just the old or like the traditional meetup members. Now we get to see a mix of old and new, and we are now, for example, with Jonathan, he's reaching out to universities to do like a hackathon with the students, right? and the purpose there is also to like try to engage them and to come even like like really young folks to come in. I think that is to be honest, I think that is a challenge not just for the Seattle area, but I also think that it's a generational thing, like, and I can see it with my kids where they're happier to not having to go anywhere or taking everything online. And so that is going to be an interesting challenge. How do we approach that going in, right? Like I think the newer generations are more comfortable just being online without having to actually do the essentially what they call like the sneaker network, where you put in your shoes and go meet people, right? But I can see like those were like the difference. I see there's definitely a regional part. Every jug has to kind of like deal with the culture in their place. Seattle is a very sometimes you hear this called the Seattle freeze, and it sometimes it's not that bad, but or not that true, but other times it is true that people love to keep their communities closed, and that's how they grew up, right? And the second part is the generational part that is kind of like coming in, where there's a new generation of engineers that love just being online all the time instead of having physical events. And those are the challenges that I see. So.
And Mary, so for Chicago JUG then, because Freddie mentioned that there's this new blood is not coming in quite often, and it was mentioned at the VPC panel that you took part in, and we had the big conversation about it, and Freddie also mentioned universities, and again that was a big thing that the Garden State Java user group are doing. But how does that work for Chicago JUG? Do you see the same challenge with not having enough new people, or maybe wanting to have more new community members, but it's not happening? So how's that looking?
Yes, so we are, yes, experiencing the same kind of issue. Although I have to be saying that I'm happy to report that I'm seeing an increased number of members in continuing, right? There are some people dropped out, obviously, but then people coming, but they're also a large part kind of inactive too, I do have to say. I think part of it too right now is that we're able to, because of my other engagement with the community, actually more with the AI group, and there are lots of young blood in those, and some of them actually are Java developers. So I reach out to them as well. I think we did something together, some kind of a joint event, with my AI group, and then some theme with AI and Java. And through that, I'm able to actually attract some of the universities, especially in Chicago. There's a Illinois Institute of Technology. I think Freddie graduated from there, right? Yeah. There's some University of Chicago, a Northwestern, and the area university students that I'm able to actually get their attention and also introduce them or really coming to join the JUG. So we have been fortunate to see, because of that kind of explicit kind of inviting certain people, that I'm able to actually see some new members coming in too. And I'm these days too, that's what I'm trying to do is through one or two, they are more enthusiastic, trying to get them kind of latch on, so to speak, and then have them help us to recruit more students too. I think that is kind of one way that we've been trying to do too. But overall though, it is still slower. If I have to say, compare with an AI themed meetup, and there's just nothing you can do right now. It's just AI is everywhere, and so it's a bit of a challenge, I suppose, because that's hot and everybody goes after the hot stuff. But I'm trying to from there like get some folks coming over, because Java too is still a robust language for building the foundational stuff, right, of all the systems. So people cannot forget. And then so that's what it is. And I still have plans to this year. We're going to do more like Java with, let's say, the trendiest stuff, with some AI stuff with Java, and then hope to attract more, members to our group too, especially the younger ones. So.
Yeah, and that's a great approach as well, and it's again really fortunate that you have this opportunity to combine your two groups, your AI group, which you've mentioned at the virtual Payara conference as well, but it is I guess this is the only way if we want to attract new, especially, and we're talking young developers or university students that are possibly looking into being Java developers or developers in general, doing computer engineering, whatever the subject they pick. It needs to be something interesting. It needs to be something hype. It needs to be something sexy in that sense, because you don't necessarily realize that all of the boring stuff or they find boring is actually something that you would be using as if you are going to be working for a specific company or working as a consultant in this industry. You still need to do it. You still need to know it, but you can combine it with all of the new and shiny stuff, because that new and shiny stuff does end up being used in the businesses as well, but maybe not right now, maybe in 5-10 years from now. But it's I guess this is the only way to attract young people these days, is to combine those technologies. And I think it works really well, and I've seen it. There's so much going on, and we at Payara do a lot of AI with Jakarta EE and with Payara itself, and it's super popular, of course, not a surprise. But it can be combined, and then once we hook them in, that's when we can expand, hopefully, and keep them there and keep them interested. I don't know if that's also a way how Seattle JUG are doing things these days. Is there some sort of craving for the new stuff as well?
Yeah, no, it's interesting, because we always try to remind, look, there will be a ML engineer or AI engineer that does the prompt crafting and stuff like that. But once they are done with that, like, you need to take that and scale it out, right? Like, this will have to live on a web property or in some kind of backend system. And guess what language you need for that, right?
Yeah.
So it's good to have kind of like it. Like, even like I have a kid that is going into computer science, and I said, like, yeah, do learn AI, stuff like that. But the thing is, like, when rubber meets the road, right? Like, there's still the need for taking these systems and productionalize it. Like, you're not gonna productionalize it on Python, right? So there is first that part, right? Like, where because like the first thing that happened was, like, everybody was, oh, if you're not a Python developer, you're gonna be left behind, and that's not quite true, right? Like, it's kind of like the same dead nail that we always hear about, like, oh, Java is dead, and it's like, no, not really. There's too many people that had the language around, right? But yeah, like the approach that you have, or that we're trying to take, is we do try to balance, what essentially sessions can support AI, right? Some of them are just straight out, like, like Spring AI or like J4J or stuff like that, where you can actually, run these models, right? But others are more of like, how do you use AI for doing X, right? Or, how do you add it to telemetry? How do you add it for refactoring? How, like there is things that we're thinking about, like, maybe how can we have a session with GitHub Copilot, and how do you use that to help you develop, right? Because I think having those tools, both of how they work, how to use them, and how to scale them, are probably the pillars of the goal for this year, right? Like, having sessions around that, so people are ready, right? Like, they are able to handle, when the request will come down of, like, we need some AI stuff.
Yeah, and I think Mary, you mentioned a few times that AI is this topic that is emerging, and there's a lot of interest in your area, and we've seen that obviously across the globe, and with all of the technologies that we work with, whether that's Java or not. So, do you think this is the theme for 2025? Because I wanted to talk a little bit more about what you see, the trends, the new tools, new frameworks that are coming in 2025. Which do you predict will be the most popular for your community? So we did mention AI, and this is definitely one of them.
So yeah, well, first of all, let me apologize if I found seems like when AI first came out too, it seemed to be to me the Java community wasn't very interested in the very beginning because everybody's saying, oh well, it's just not gonna take over or whatever. But like you said to Dominica, it's like it's there and it's just how it's just capture, right? The business, essentially, the investors are going after all of these, right now they're still going after the models. But I think, to be honest with you, I feel, especially with AI, there's the model side and then LLMs, all of these things. And then there's actually, it's like in my talk too, I talk about it's like we're looking at LLMs like it's piece of gold, you're refining it. Yes, you can keep refining, but if you don't actually make use of the gold, it doesn't do much good. So therefore, what is actually more, I think, add value to humanity would be actually the, so to speak, the AI inferencing part, right? You're actually using these models to build applications. So what is better than, using Java to help us build applications? So I see it like Java will have a place, right? We still are doing the same thing. It's distributed computing, is the concurrency, all the infrastructural kind of things. Like you said, Dominica, maybe not the shiny part, but they are very important. It's like a car engine underneath the fancy car. But what is powering it is really all the engine, all the stuff, components working together well. And that's what I think Java is, right? And that's how we should be kind of marketing Java as that engine that whatever it is, you're running on top, it's really the Java that's kind of helping with all the communication, all of the infrastructural things that will be needed to make things happen, basically. So I feel, it's true. There will be a lot of tooling, things like that. Like right now, right? Spring AI, Freddie also mentioned Spring AI, LangChain 4J, and there are some other semantic kernel, for example. All these are like working with LLMs. And there's also a multi-context protocol that just came out from Anthropic, for example. These are things that you're trying to like build up some kind of abstraction to work with LLMs. And it's very language agnostic, for example, things like that. So I think Java has a big place to be at, and we should actually be focusing more too on that side to see how we can leverage on all these strengths that Java has to make the engineering part, the sophistication that actually can help us to move forward this whole AI thing. But of course, Python, you can't deny it there because they came out first. All of these TensorFlow, all of these, they're PyTorch, for example, they are good too. But I think, traditionally, Python is not a scalability kind of language. And all of these really make it real to scalable flexibility. All these really comes back to the Java side. So I feel there's got to be some kind of push to kind of get the Java to highlight that part that we can do, to step in and do all the, the robust kind of work that's needed. I feel that's where Java can win to kind of, so to speak, like win back this kind of status as the AI, engineering giant in there. So, yeah. So that's my thought for this year. Yeah.
I plus one. Like I think that it's kind of interesting. Like sometimes I see efforts of, for example, trying to do Llama CPP on Java and essentially Java trying to get into that part of the AI ecosystem. And it's like, not that it's not worth trying, but it's one of those where this not playing to our strengths, right? Like Java's strength is the infrastructure, the scalability, the actual like stability of being able to like bring this all out, right? And in the same way, like on Python, their strengths are the ability to rapidly iterate, to really experiment quickly, trying to run these models, inferencing, fine tuning them, right? Yeah. Like they carve a data science niche in there. They have been the lead on ML for the longest time. And it's one of those where the right tool for the job, right? Like there's a reason why Python is super accepted on the data scientists and why it's like when a traditional engineer goes and look at Python, if you've been working on Java, you're like, oh my gosh, they use like space for semantic meaning, and it's like, and it's so hard to like they just declare global variables everywhere, and And that's perfectly fine if you're a data scientist, but it's not perfectly fine if you're trying to create a very scalable, robust, bug-free system, right? So, I think that essentially understanding the roles of the languages and essentially capitalizing on the strengths of each language is the right approach, moving forward.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, and it's and the same whether that's a language like you said, or any other new shiny technology like AI or anything else. In the past, it was microservices, which is now an old story, right? Although it isn't really, but it's all of those trends that come up, and it's not one or the other. It's not you either do AI or you do Java. You do both, and at the end of the day, I think the comparison to the car and the engine, it's a really good one, and it's just, I guess, educating the newcomers, the junior developers, that all of the shiny new stuff is really important. And yes, you do want to learn it, you do need to learn it, but you also need to understand what is driving it and what it actually makes it work in the real life scenario, in production environments for enterprises. It needs to run on something stable. It needs to run on something that actually those enterprises are already using, ideally. And Java is one of those things, one of those languages that is the basis. So you can't really, you won't have a car without the engine. It would just sit there and do nothing and look pretty. And that's not what it's all about, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, so I think, and again, it's interesting we're having this conversation, and I think right now there's this AI summit in Paris where all of the leaders of the world are trying to decide how to actually run and make all of the use of AI secure and I guess consistent across the world, which is a huge thing to do. But and here we are just talking about how AI can work with Java, which is also very much relevant. So it's the topic. It's definitely the topic of 2025. So we're not going to see it going away anytime soon. If anything, there will be probably more of the conversation.
No, I think the interesting segue on that is that, what is it's because like I think that and I can see it, right? Like AI is affecting or is becoming part of being a software engineer, right? There is being like GitHub Copilot has been in the forefront. OpenAI with its programming models. There is like new players like Codium's Windsurf or IntelliJ Genie, where the thing that I'm realizing is that there's going to be a shift in what it means to be a software developer, right? Like at the very beginning, when before these AI or code assistants came out, you have the ability to essentially I wouldn't call it I kind of like think about it like pipe fitters, right? Like you have some XML class, you need to transform into internal model, and maybe your day job is doing that, right? Like you go in and there's some translation that you need to be done, something that is essentially not necessarily, super hard, but not super easy either. And that is kind of how you make your career, right? Like it's like, okay, I know this part, I know how to use XML transforms, and that's what I'm going to be doing. I think that the introduction of AI first requires now for you to essentially not stay there, right? Like I think that before today, it was super easy just to stay and make a career out of just doing like small programming stuff. But those are essentially on the reach of just asking AI to do it for you, right? Like, if you have an XML class and you have an internal model, you can just really ask, hey, just create the adapter for these two classes, right? And there will be other things that are coming like that. So the interesting part as it becomes, what is our Java user group leader kind of like guidance? It's like, how can we enable now that we are operating on this new, like AI is not gonna, it's the genie's out of the bottle, like it's gonna stay. Code assistance is going to stay. Like code refactors are going to be, like Open Rewrite was like revolutionary when it first came out, but now it's it's with the AI is like you actually have like Copilot migration tools, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you can actually say, I want you to grade this code base from Java 8 to Java 21. And it's going to try to go in and do it itself, right? Like you don't even have to do anything. So the interesting part is, I think that there is a new kind of like, not quite edict, but we need to figure out how can we help the new generation of Java engineers that are coming in to be effective in this kind of place where, like the very simple stuff is going to be taken care of by, this code assistance. So that means that you really need to know more. I think what it allows you to do is to really need to know more about like design, like, design patterns, like, how do you reduce complexity? How do you ask these tools to refactor? Like it was so funny. I was working on a particular toy project that I have, and I had like this kind of like um, class that I was working with that everything just wrote to a file because I was just experimenting to it. And then I asked like this coding windsurf is like, first extract an interface for the data layer on this, and it did it. And then I asked it, make it implement the interface for H2, which is like an internal data store, right?
Yeah.
And it did it like in like 20 minutes. And I was like, this will have taken me an hour of toil to get it done. And now in just like 20 minutes, I extracted an interface. I modularized my code base. I introduced and it did it in a nice way too. It knew that I was using Spring. So it just decided to use like a Spring data to actually add it. And I was like,
wow.
It will have taken me it will have taken, I will have gotten there, but it will have taken me a little bit. It's like, oh yeah, I should have done this in Spring. Right. So that part just made me realize that there should be a shift also in the things that we teach in the user groups, because we want our engineers or essentially our community to be ready when these things are there, and to be able to use them to essentially multiply their work, because that's what these tools allow you to do.
Productivity. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Thanks, Freddie. I think now I'm getting an idea for another season of this podcast. We do Java meets AI, and we'll have you, Mary, as a co-moderator, perhaps.
I would love to.
But I think I would love to explore that a little bit more, and especially, to be honest, I am waiting a little bit for the hype to slow down a bit, and for it to become just a normal thing or this new normal thing. And it's not going to happen in the next few months, but I think a lot of people know it's here to stay, and it's now just sort of trying to navigate our way around on how we combine the new AI tools, how we build them into the existing tools, and just get on with it and enjoy it and make the best out of it. But I think that the key really in this conversation that we talk about, not just this conversation for this episode, but in general for all of us, because we all work within Java environment, it's making sure that especially newcomers understand that there's still, that it's an add-on, right? Like AI on its own is not going to work. You need this solid base, whether that's Spring, whether that's Java, whatever you are using. It needs to be there, and it's never going to work, or at least it doesn't seem like today that it's going to work without this solid basis that we've already built. And you still need the knowledge about it. You still need to understand the ins and outs of that. So this is what the Java user groups are hopefully helping with. So but it's a huge topic, so I do want to spend more time on it, and dedicate more time to AI and Java. But you both did mention, so just going back to a couple of things that we talked about earlier is how things have changed over the last couple of years, and not just with the new technologies, but also logistically how we are running user groups, and not just user groups, but generally how events are being organized, and how people sort of, I guess, make decisions how they want to take part in events, and then that obviously drives the logistics, that drives the format of events, whether that's Java user groups or whether that's big conferences like DevNexus or Devox. So how are you within your Java user groups navigating this shift from running predominantly face-to-face events? Because let's be honest, that's how it was for majority of user groups. The whole point was the local Java user groups. So the point is you come, you see people, whether that's once a month, every 2 months, every quarter, however that works. But it would be those face-to-face meetups with pizzas and beers at the end quite often, or just people networking, talking, having a conversation, walking back to the tube station. So now we obviously shifting, and we have shifted from this face-to-face only JUG meetups to those virtual only in 2020, 2021. For lots of JUGs, they still kept going in that virtual space. And now I guess we're shifting more into this hybrid mode for majority of JUGs. So how does that work for your Java user groups?
Sure. I think I can speak first because, yes, all throughout COVID, we went completely virtual for a while, a few years. Then we slowly kind of coming back to in person. But we keep, because we started building up the infrastructure for running virtual things. So now we actually keep and make it more like a hybrid. And I think I see it as a good thing, although then we also attracted members from all over the world too, even though different time zones. But we also have it set up so then things get streamed, live streamed, plus also recorded on our YouTube channel. So make it available. So I see it as like a continuing thing, and we continue doing this hybrid mode. And actually recently I wanted to point out, and Dominica, you probably are aware, in London, the virtual Java users group, they started having this program called VJUG Connect, and inviting even us, if we're running user group, we can actually stream it to their platform. So that kind of increased that viewership too, because virtual JUG, as we all know, has got 10,000 or at least like 10,000 registered users. So yeah, so I see it as kind of like this hybrid way of doing things. Is we'll continue doing it because the knowledge can be shared all over the world. It's not restricted to geography too. Although I have to say, if it's an in person, it always makes it special. You can hang out after the a meetup and have beer or have just talk, and that's what happened to us. We actually very often we have folks just stay behind, chat, and especially I'm encouraging the students. They're excited. You want them to talk and feel like they belong to this community. So that's kind of also actually very important too. But I think having the hybrid is the way to go. If you were asking about this question, so yeah. So, and actually, not only that too, because of the hybrid, we actually have folks who join us remotely, and then they got to Chicago. They came and joined us too. So that's actually really good too. So we're hoping too, whenever people come by, stop in person, and yeah, our doors are always open. So yeah, so that's just what I feel. So.
No, it's interesting for us. Like I think that the value of the user group is on the in-person, right? So we did have to go online through COVID, but once COVID started phasing out and essentially things were opening up, we decided to okay, we're just gonna restart having the in-person meetings and just we made the decision of just doing the in-person meetings. Part of it was that half of our content is coming from speakers that already have done this, right? Like they already have something out there. They already publish their talks. So if you really want to get the content, you don't really need to be online on a simulcast for it, right? Like you can just find the speaker, find the topic, and you probably get a very good version of what they were going to present. I think for us, the interesting part is of course the networking, the connections, and we're always trying to figure out. I think one of the things that we've been thinking is around how do we help engineers as they go through this transition period, because being in Seattle, we are very sensible to when Amazon makes a move or Microsoft makes a move, or even, like Expedia Group or any of the other, tech companies that we have around, that, suddenly there's, an influx of engineers that are in the workforce. How do you facilitate them finding a new kind of like, career or a new home on a different company, right? And I think as all of this shakeup happens, having the in-persons and having a way to connect, we actually have the ability to, like, say, one of the things that we tend to do in our meetups is, like, we actually ask who's hiring, and then also we ask who's open for looking, who's looking, right? And we kind of like let them raise their hands and say, look, guys, talk to each other, right? Try to find out if there is some alignment in there. And I think that part is going to become more important, as I know there is going to be a reshift as this AI thing comes in and as the tech landscape changes. So I think that's where the thing is. Like, we should definitely, if you can do the online, even though, like, for us it was like, the topics were something that they can find. But I still think that holding on to that in person, for the ability to keep that networking going is it's important, right? Like we don't want to let go of that part yet. So
absolutely.
Yeah, and it makes sense, and I really like how I guess it's about the conscious decision of the leaders how you want to run it, depending on your community, and especially, I guess, on the location, like you said, Mary, that you are, thanks to that, you're attracting people from all over the world, but also some people actually travel to Chicago because they got so interested in what you got to say. So it's
right.
so having this virtual part is super useful in that context, but also being very sort of consistent and saying, okay, we carry on now that we carry on with just in-person events. Again, that also sets the expectations for the group, and it changes the dynamics. So, and there's so much choice, actually, and you can if you want to go online and do a Java user group online, you can, and there's so many of them, and different languages as well, because we both of you, yours are obviously based in the USA, so we're talking English language for majority of the talks, but then we talk to I talk to the to JUG Torino guys, and they're obviously, they have both English and Italian, so you have this choice, and then there are other Java user groups from different locations, different countries with different languages. It's all out there, but also having this opportunity to have your local face-to-face meetup is super important. And I don't think, other than the virtual Java user group that you've mentioned, Mary, that has been around, I think, even before COVID, as far as I can remember. It's all of the meetups, even if they are in hybrid mode, they still keep the face-to-face meetings anyway. They still have the in-person events, maybe less often, but that is still the case. And I think, from what I've heard, from what I've seen, and from what I've experienced myself, is what keeps them going, because anyone can set up a virtual user group. It's still a lot of work. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's easier to run a virtual user group if it comes to community building, I think, than it is to try and run your local one, because it's a different level of involvement. And I think what you said, Freddie, earlier, about how difficult it is to try and convince some of the, especially the newcomers, to actually come and see you at the event at the specific time, in a specific location that you possibly have to travel to a little bit. You will get home a little bit late. It's a commitment, which you don't necessarily have to make that much of a commitment for the virtual, because you can always watch it later, right? So, but it's a commitment that is worth it, and I definitely do want to send it out to those that are considering that it's definitely worth joining your Java user group, your local Java user group, and actually coming to one of those events, because it pays off. It pays off so much.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And I think because we are again at the beginning, still at the beginning, I guess, of 2025, I would say it's February, so we can still say it's the beginning. So what are your plans for your Java user groups for this year? What are you most excited about that is coming? Do you have any specific talks or specific meetups that you already have planned that you are very much looking forward to? Anything that you want to share with the wider community that is happening for you in the next couple of months?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay. I'll start. I think I already mentioned about it, but certainly too for Chicago Java users group, and I also have to say too we're fortunate, and even something Freddie told me when he gave me the baton, and he said, you'll be getting a lot of calls from people wanting to speak, at the CJUG, and which is true. I mean, a lot of times too, they may be vendors that some speakers stop by, but nonetheless, I mean, it's good. A lot of these folks are speakers already with the community, so it doesn't come in with a heavy sales pitch, so to speak. So we know, who we can get. So we already have a couple of vendors that would be coming, and they're promoting their technology, which happens to be also very popular type of technology. So we will have those. And plus, again, with the AI theme, we also try to get more of AI coming in. But again, not like intrusive. It's not like the fancy thing. It's really get down, let's roll up our sleeve, look at how LangChain4j work, things like that. So we're trying to target those too. It's becoming more and more relevant now. It's just part of engineering, nothing to do with, the AI shiny thing, right, that we talk about. So yeah, for us, those would be the things. And plus, we are continuing on with our partnership too with the Kotlin users group. So there will also be, a certain amount of collaborations too with the Kotlin folks, and still within the JVM family. So yeah, so that would be, I think, right now that's our plan for 2025. So yeah.
Yeah, for us, I think that I think it goes in the same lines. Like we have, Johnny is helping us organize a hackathon, a community hackathon. So that could be super fun. And I think that like what I think we're probably going to focus is on that arm, not quite doing something like a job fair, but something like that. Like I think that should be our like summer target, where we actually have a way for essentially engineers to kind of like discover what is out there in the marketplace. I think that for us is gonna be somewhat important, and I think that we should dedicate some cycles. That's my wish. Things always change, but if I were to say, like, that's probably a way to facilitate engineers trying to find like their things as things become very fluid over here. So
yeah. And I want to comment too, Freddie is like one of the most creative people I've ever met, right, in this technical field. He has a lot of creativity in there, and I can see him doing wonderful things all the time. So yeah.
I get too much credit for things that I haven't done. That's okay. I'm humble.
But that's great to hear. And again, this is this community spirit that's why I love my job as well. Just talking to people like you guys. So thanks for doing what you're doing for your local community. So the last thing, really, where can people find you? So whether they want to come to the face-to-face meetup in Seattle or do a hybrid or face-to-face or virtual in Chicago, what's the best place to get more information?
Sure. I think for us, CJUG, you can find us on meetup.com. I think it's Chicago JUG. So they can find it meetup.com. Or we also have a website, although we need to be still a bit of updating, is CJUG, cjug.org. So that's our website too. We have links to the meetup, to our YouTube channel, all the other social media platform. And join our Discord as well. I'd like to invite folks to join us too there. Yeah.
Yeah, for us, we are at seajug.org. So, from CJUG to CJUG.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we are on Meetup, and it's super easy to find us. If you want to like personal reach, I'm not too hard to find either online or anywhere else. So, but yeah. If you're in Seattle, come join us. We got Venkat speaking next week, or well, it's probably going to be done, but by the time this get published. But then we got Gary also coming, so Gary Grunwald. So it's going to be fun. Yeah.
Awesome.
So lots of great things planned. Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Freddie. Thank you, Mary, for joining me again. And hopefully we'll get a chance to talk again. And hopefully I will be able to see you face to face at some conferences sometime, either this or next year. So really lovely to talk to you, and all the best for both Java user groups.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Payara. Thank you, Dominika. Thank you. And thank you, Freddie.
Oh, gosh. It's always great to see you, Mary. So
thank you, guys.